It was frustrating. There were times where I was mad at God.
I want to have a baby so bad, but I was like, it literally feel like it's consuming my mind.
I know I'm supposed to trust you, but it's really hard, and there's no reason why this should be happening.
She challenged me. She was like, Megan, if God tells you you're not going to have kids, what are you going to say? She's like, is he going to be enough for you? Is God enough? I've always had the desire to be a mom, and I always just assumed that I was going to be a mom. And when I was little, my mom always joked that I was going to be a mom of like 23 kids because my Barbie family always had like 23 kids in it. And when I would play with baby dolls, I could never play with just one. I always had like 7 kids in my family.
I guess when I was growing up, I never really even thought about it. I was at best apathetic. I loved kids, the oldest of 7 kids, so I had plenty of experience, but I never really thought about even having kids. I think it was after our first year of marriage. We were planning on having kids, but it was a few years down the road. We wanted to wait, spend our time together. But yeah, our first year of marriage, about a year, we thought we were pregnant, and it was kind of a freak out, like, what's going on? Is this happening? Are we doing this? Turned out we weren't, but it was a little bit of, okay, yeah, we know we're not ready.
Relief, like,
yeah, we're like,
okay.
We're not ready, and that's good. So we'll just keep going. Then a year later, it was kind of almost the same time of year. We thought we were pregnant again, and that time it was like really exciting, and we were like, this is happening. We're gonna be parents, and we were so pumped up, and we found out we weren't, and we were like, oh man, well that's a bummer. But so then like that showed us, I think we're ready to be parents. We're gonna do this. So it was almost 3 years ago now that we decided we were gonna try to start being parents and really go for it. And we told some close friends of ours, and we got excited about it, and we started planning and getting things ready. We started fixing up a room in our house to get ready for a nursery, and 1 month went by, 2 months went by, 3 months went by, nothing. And it was kind of like, well, I guess some people just have a hard time the first couple months, so we'll just keep trying. 6 months went by, and a year went by, and we had not even a surprise of, oh, maybe it might be. It was just always, nope, nothing. And at that point, it started getting really frustrating and a little bit like, what's going on? What's wrong with us? What's wrong with me?
We also had some health issues come in there too.
Yeah.
Where you had some health issues. I was starting to have some health problems.
Yeah, and some of that we didn't realize was related to not being able to get pregnant until a little bit later on. Going to doctors, trying to figure out what's happening, and realizing there are actual legitimate medical reasons why we can't have children.
So after the first year of us trying, it kind of felt like every day or literally like every month we knew someone or like family member that was expecting. And it was like every single time, especially if they were really close to us, it was like oh, what? Like, we want to be excited for you, and we are, and it's like a super exciting moment for them. But then we would go home, and it was like this, again, like almost kind of a slap to the face that was like, why was it so easy for them, and why are we struggling so much? And
it was really hard to almost fake the excitement sometimes, but we wanted so bad to be happy for our friends and family,
and we
felt terrible that we felt this way.
Mm-hmm. But then he was like, we'd come to church and we would look around and it's like, oh, we are literally the only married couple in our church without kids. And
Yeah.
it's not that like anybody ever made a big deal of it. And we like, it wasn't a big thing to us, but it was almost like one more thing we were aware of, that it's like, oh, that's one more longing, because it's like, not that we would necessarily want to fit in, but it's like, oh, we want to be in the same life phase as all of our friends. Because it's like, all of our friends have kids, and it's like, oh, we want to be there too.
So after we started figuring out medical issues, and it was about, I guess, probably 2 years, and we had no hope yet as to why, or to fix anything, to figure out, okay, now this is why, now we fix it, now we can start having kids. So it was really frustrating, and I was mad at God. I kind of went back and forth, like mad at God, frustrated to, he knows what he's doing, he's in control, I just need to trust him. Back again to, I know I'm supposed to trust you, but it's really hard, and there's no reason why this should be happening. We should be able to get pregnant. I feel like we would both be great parents. Why is this not happening? If you say that you love us and you want to give people who love you the desires of their heart. Well, this is our desire, and it's not happening.
So like a year ago, I went through a phase of, like, it was like a couple months where I found that I was almost obsessing over the idea of like being a mom and like wanting to have a baby so bad. So it was just like consuming my mind, and it was just eating at me and eating at me and eating at me. And I'm like, and I just like didn't realize at the time, but it was actually like just draining. And I was talking to my cousin Emily, and we were talking about it, and I was telling her, I was like, Emily, I'm really struggling with this. Like, I'm just so frustrated. And I was like, I feel like I want to be a mom so bad, and I want to have a baby so bad, but I was like, it literally feel like it's consuming my mind. And she challenged me. She was like, Megan, she's like, well, think about this. She was like, is this something like, if God tells you, or like if you feel all of a sudden God's like, you're not going to have kids. And I was like thinking about it, and she's like, but if he says that, she's like, what are you going to say? She's like, is he going to be enough for you? Is God enough?
The one day that Megan told me that her cousin had presented her with a challenge that she should think about, if we never have kids, is God going to be enough for you? And that, and I know it hit her pretty hard, and it hit me hard as well, just thinking, is he enough? Is he going to be my sole purpose for living? Or am I just going to put my purpose in something else? Even if it's not a kid, is it in something else? And it really made me have to think about where my life is, or was, where I was trusting all of my hope into, and how I was living my life. I think God teaches us things through trials and through phases of us not knowing what's going on, or us being almost in times of frustration at God. He teaches us things that we would not otherwise learn. So honestly, being able to be in the situation that we are in, while it's frustrating and we have not enjoyed all of it, I still wouldn't trade it for anything, because it's taught us to rely solely on God and to trust Him at His word and to follow Him wherever He leads us. Knowing that God is faithful and good, and that His plan is perfect, makes it okay to get out of bed every day and say, God, you got this.
God is enough.
Yep, God is enough for us. So we're still learning every day that God is enough for us and His timing is perfect for us. We are excited to announce that on February 17th, 2020, we found out that we are expecting a baby. And we're very, very excited.
Andrew and I had been praying that God would give us some sort of, more or less like a sign that...
A clear sign.
A clear sign that, that we, one was like, nope, we're not having kids. And it was like, okay, that's okay. That's your plan for us. That's your plan is perfect. We're okay with that. Or, yeah, like you're gonna have kids, just it's not in your timing. A couple weeks before we found out that we were expecting, a wonderful lady named Roberta came up to me after church, and she just walked up and she said, "I'm praying for you." And I was like, "Oh, thank you. Like, that's really sweet of you." And she's like, "No, I'm praying that you will have a baby. That this is your year, and that you will have a baby." And I was speechless. I just stood there and I was trying really hard not to cry. And I was like, thank you. Like, I really, really appreciate that.
Also, 2 weeks before we found out that we were pregnant, I was at the men's conference here at the church, and I'd been, I guess, sitting, listening to men give their testimonies, and just kind of preach the word to us for a few hours. And we got to one guy who was talking about affair-proofing your marriage, and it wasn't really something that I felt I needed to learn about, but I was like, okay, I'll sit through this and try to figure out what's, if there's anything I need to learn that I'm doing wrong. And as I was sitting there, the guy started talking about how you treat your wife and how that reflects how you would treat your daughter. And so I was taking notes, writing things down, and I wrote down how I treat my wife is how I treat my head, this is kind of weird, my head told me to write kids, but my hand wrote out daughters, plural, specifically daughters, and it kind of made me jump a little bit to see that I wrote something that was not what I intended. And at that moment, God spoke audibly to me and said, "I'm going to give you kids. You're going to have kids." And it made me jump and freeze. And I was sitting there in a room full of guys, and I started crying. And I was trying to hide it so hard. My dad was sitting next to me, and I did not want him to think that I was crying because there was a guy talking about affairs, and I was having an affair against Megan. But in fact, I was crying because God told me I was going to have kids. After we found out that we're going to be parents, it really just made God that much more real to us, and it emphasized how much we can trust God and that He will follow through on His promises. Going through this whole ordeal the past few years, I think it's a valuable lesson that God has been teaching us, and I'm excited to hopefully teach it to our kids and just to be able to raise them so that they know that God is enough, even if they are broke, even if they never get married, if they never have kids of their own, that God is always going to be enough, and He will always love them and be there for them. Through all of this, learning these things that we have, if we hadn't ever gotten pregnant, we would have been able to trust God still and follow wherever He wanted us to go.
Regardless of what you're going through, one thing you can remember is like God is enough.